everyone. This is ICO Talk. My name is Yelena, and today my guest is Dr. Moshe Praver, Chief Operating Officer of MedCredits. Hello, Moshe. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Okay, please first of all tell us about the project. What is it all about, and what's the main idea behind?
Yeah, so MedCredits is really a new form of payment rails between patients and healthcare providers. And, there's a lot of money tied up in middlemen these days in terms of patients trying to pay healthcare providers for their services. And we're trying to streamline that by using smart contracts and the trustless nature of the blockchain.
Okay,
So,
will you please exactly explain us how it works? What's the role of blockchain in the whole system? Yeah.
Right. So our first application that we're building is a telemedicine application. And that means any kind of remote diagnosis between a patient and a physician. And so what we're providing for the payment is a smart contract that governs the interaction between the patient and the doctor. Mm-hmm. So that, a patient initiates a case by sending some tokens into this smart contract. And then there's logic within this smart contract that essentially guarantees that the patient will get an honest evaluation from a doctor. And it does that using staking mechanisms. And if the patient is unhappy with the first doctor's diagnosis, they're able to actually call in a second doctor. And the smart contract guarantees that trust between patients and physicians so that you don't need a middleman arbitering that exchange.
I see. Okay, tell us please a few words about the history of the project. When was it launched? Who's got the idea of it? And why have you decided to develop this particular idea?
Sure. So it was really conceptualized by myself and my co-founder, Dr. James Todaro. We went to medical school together at Columbia University, that's in New York City. And we got into blockchain and Bitcoin back in 2013. Initially, mainly as investing, but over time, we learned more about the technology. We read the Bitcoin white paper. We got into Ethereum very early, learned about that tech. And we realized that the power is the ability for two parties to transact trustlessly. It's really about financial contracts. So when we thought about how that would apply to healthcare, we realized, it has to be related to payment rails. And so we really formalized the idea of telemedicine in December 2016. We wrote our white paper. We came up with the telemedicine platform. We came up with token curated registry that we'll get into. We came up with various APIs for encryption and decryption of data. We wrote that white paper, got a bigger team together, and then actually 2 months ago, we released our alpha product of this telemedicine application on testnet. And so that's been live now for 2 months. People have been playing around with it. And we're, moving forward and continuing development. And we're really happy with how things are going so far.
Okay. Now just a few words about the team of the project. Who's working with you today?
Yeah, so we're a little different in that we have a lot of doctors on our team. And I think that's just a reflection of the fact that both the co-founders are doctors. So we have 5 medical doctors on our team. Myself and my co-founder are both doctors. I was in the field of neurosurgery. He's in ophthalmology. And then because our first application is in dermatology, we have a number of dermatologists who are on the team as well. Mm-hmm. We have 5 developers who, they're all incredible in their own right. 2 of them are specialized in Solidity development. 2 of them are doing mainly web app and mobile app development, and one of them is doing our front end development. And then we round it out with, we have a legal consultation team, a couple people with, heavy business experience and financial experience. One of them is a Wall Street trader. So we're pretty covered in terms of all the bases, and especially in terms of healthcare. I think, one of the most important things is we actually have doctors who know and understand medicine on our team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and whom you consider to be your main competitors on this market?
There are other healthcare applications out there. I don't know if any of them are truly competitors because we're all doing different things. But just going based on the market, obviously Patientory was the first one to come out onto the market. And there's been a couple others like, Bowhead, there's been Medical Chain recently. I would say that, most of, Patientory and Medical Chain are mostly concerned with medical records, which is very different from what we're doing. We're concerned with medical services. So we're payment and trust between patients and doctors for actual diagnoses and recommendations. So there's a difference there. And I don't think there's anyone else really handling medical services at this point. I think there have been a couple that have come up in, the last month, but I think they're still at very early stages. So that's kind of how I see our niche is very different. And, I think everyone trying to utilize blockchain technology to improve healthcare, has a role in this space. And we're not trying to, push anyone around or be too, competitive about these things.
Okay. I see. Let's now proceed to the ICO. Please, first of all, tell us about the soft cap and the hard cap.
Soft cap is 10 million. The hard cap is 35 million. And we are selling 70 million tokens. 35 million will be sold in a pre-sale environment and 35 million will be sold in public sale.
Okay, why this particular sum? Tell us more about the key milestones of development of the project. So tell us more about the roadmap.
The roadmap. So right now we are at the point where we're on alpha testnet of our teledermatology application. We are having everyone who participated in the first round of our pre-sale testing out this alpha application. And we plan to release a beta application on March 1st. And that's on and around when the rest of the pre-sale will occur. Once we sell the pre-sale tokens, at the conclusion of that is when we'll put this application on public mainnet and it'll be ready to go with real live tokens. The other thing we're developing as well is this token curated registry, which is what handles decentralized physician onboarding onto the platform. And so that's scheduled to go out on the same timeline. Initially, it'll go onto testnet. We'll experiment with a little bit, but by Q2 2018, we'll have that on public mainnet. And that's sort of the second half of the equation with telemedicine platforms.
Okay. Let's for a second imagine the negative scenario if you don't get enough. What will happen with the project and with the investors? You consider maybe any other traditional sources of crowdfunding?
That's a tricky question because our project is truly a decentralized network, and the token is so integral to the function of the platform that it doesn't make sense to sell, company equity or shares really, because it's almost like selling shares of Bitcoin. I mean, what does that mean? Bitcoin is Bitcoin and it's a decentralized network and there's no real company behind it. So, ultimately the fuel of our network is our tokens. In the case that we don't reach our soft cap, we love this project, so we'll just continue developing it until there's more interest, and we wouldn't burn our tokens. We would just save them for a later date and resell them in the future.
Okay.
We would still issue them because we don't want people to wait once they've purchased. We want to actually get them into their hands so that they can use the tokens for their intended purpose. But I think in that case, very unlikely because we have a whitelist going that indicates we have a lot of interest. But in that case, I think we would just sell tokens later on and kind of try again.
Okay. Let's speak more about your tokens. Actually, what will be the key benefits for the investors, for your token holders?
Yeah, so anyone who holds the token is responsible for curating a list of certified and licensed doctors on the platform. So the function of the token is directly associated with physician onboarding. It's what's called a work token. So there's this incentive game called a token curated registry. And essentially what it does is anyone holding a given token is responsible for curating a registry of some sort. In our case, it's a registry of licensed physicians. And the way it works is a physician applies to the registry. And in order to apply, they need to have this token. And so they stake or deposit that token into a contract. And then anyone else holding the token can either challenge that doctor. And if that doctor is challenged, then there's a voting round where people vote with their tokens to determine if this is a real doctor or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so token curated registries have very interesting properties. They're kind of self-curating, and they have an incentive structure that's kind of repetitive. So the token holders want to increase the number of tokens they have and the value of each token.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, they need physicians to be on the platform. In order to get physicians on the platform, they need patients to be able to trust the registry to actually use it. And so there's this big feedback loop that goes around where the token holders really want to attract doctors and make sure everyone's a licensed doctor on this registry. So that's really what the token's used for, is this incentive game. It needs a dedicated token to maximize the incentive structure of this process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. And what do you personally think about the future of the ICO market in the world in general?
I mean, there's definitely been changes even in this past year. There's a big shift toward more private sales, private rounds, less sort of public smart contracts handling ICOs. A lot of projects are selling, 80% of their tokens just in pre-sale and then doing the rest of it, a small round of it, in the public sale. I think there's a lot of ICOs these days, and I think a lot of them are pivots and old companies that aren't thriving who think they can get an extra 20, 25 million just by doing an ICO. And that's going to be unhealthy for the market when the market figures out that a lot of these tokens are not worth anything and they have no reason to exist in the first place. So I think this is a very early technology, and there's going to be a lot of volatility because of these things. I think over time, good projects will rise to the top, and tokens that really have no purpose will just slowly, fall out of existence. But I think there will always be a role for tokens to power truly decentralized networks, and the projects that want to issue these tokens in ICOs should be successful, in the future.
Okay. And just in conclusion, to sum it up, in one or two sentences, in very, very brief, why shall I invest in MedCredits?
So you should contribute to the MedCredits token sale if you are a physician. Definitely if you're a physician, because, I think physicians understand that healthcare has come to a point where it's really unsustainable. And a lot of that is due to middlemen and financial intermediaries who create a lot of friction. So we've been getting a lot of physician interest because this platform just makes so much sense from that regard. Number two, the MedX token offers you a way to provide some work for the network. And so you can actually, if you're an active participant in this token curated registry process, there is a way for you to get network fees off of our platform, as well as increase your number of tokens just by challenging nefarious applicants. So, there's a role for everyone. If you are a patient, and everyone's a patient, and you're frustrated with your access to care or the affordability of care, then it makes sense to support our platform. Because we're making some really big changes in healthcare, and ones that have been desperately needed for a long time.
Okay, then thank you very much for this interview and for being with us today. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. This was fun.
Okay, and I remind you that today my guest was Dr. Moshe Praver, Chief Operating Officer of MedCredits. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch more interesting videos. Bye-bye.